Caitlin, are we good with setup?
Is Heather going to be here tonight?
Not sure.
Plug it in, plug it in.
Okay. Okay, we're going to go ahead and call the March. Well, let me mute the audio here. Sorry about that. All right, I think it's. Okay, we're going to go ahead and call. Never mind. Everyone else muted? Okay, we're going to go ahead and call the March 4th, 2026 zoning workshop to order. We'll start with a roll call. Ward 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and at large are all present. I will ask Councilwoman Moynihan to lead us in our prayer.
Sure. Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen. Gracious God, we are grateful for the opportunity to serve our community. Guide us with wisdom and strength and clarity in our decisions. Bless this workshop and our city and our shared commitment to the common good. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, so we do have Bob Barber with Orion here on Zoom with us, and we're gonna kick this off. We're gonna let him kind of give us a review on how we got to where we are today. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn this over to Bob, and thank you for being here today.
Mr. Bradford, thank you, council, mayor. Appreciate the opportunity to present at the workshop and do exactly what you just said, which is kind of give an overview as to how Bay St. Louis has come to consider a revised zoning code. And I'll go through that. As I do, I want to introduce myself. I know there are people there, probably many of you have encountered us before, and appreciate that. Some of you may not know us. We are a planning and design group that works all over the country. We're celebrating our 15th year this year. The map on the screen, which I'm assuming you can see as I share my screen, will indicate our project locations where we've worked across the country and even internationally. And we've been very fortunate to work in many communities on the Gulf Coast, stretching from Orange Beach all the way over to Bay St. Louis and Waveland. So Orion Planning Design, as you consider that work, about 75% of this work is comprehensive planning and coding, meaning zoning codes, development codes, that sort of thing. I am based in Hernando, Mississippi, just south of Memphis, Tennessee. And then we have other partners, one in Montana, one in Georgia. We have folks in Maine and in New York as well. So in terms of the zoning code itself, I did want to introduce us to the law in Mississippi, the planning law in Mississippi. This is what we are operating under and what we have to comply with when we consider plans and codes for community development in all Mississippi communities. This is in the state code, section 17-1-1, and it goes through 1-27. In that area of the code, the authority to plan is established. A comprehensive community plan is defined with required elements to be included in the plan. And then the basic method of developing a plan and the codes that follow is outlined in the law as well. And this provides a central and fundamental, critically important role to the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission, or in Bay St. Louis's case, a Planning and Zoning Commission, is authorized to create and recommend a comprehensive community plan. And then the Planning Commission is authorized to create and make recommendations for rules of implementation. Typically, those will come in the form of zoning and subdivision controls, but may also include other kinds of development codes as well. And a critical component in the law says that whatever rules are adopted, they must be created in accordance with the adopted comprehensive plan. Now, that's the Planning Commission's roles. It's critical, it's fundamental, it's very important. And then ultimately, of course, the governing authority, council, city council, mayors, and boards of aldermen, they are empowered with the final approval of Planning Commission recommendations. So that's the legal background for what it is we're doing. And any quality community in our state and really in the country has some quality planning going on at the heart of it. So Bay St. Louis's efforts are appreciated, very much appreciated, and certainly a good element of leading the community. This specifically now to Bay St. Louis 2045 is the project timeline. The last city plan was created post-Katrina back in '09, and there's a zoning code, your current zoning code, that you're operating under was created in this time frame in '09. Bay St. Louis has obviously undergone lots of change. There's community dynamics are more complex. The community has emerged as an incredibly desirable place, both to live and as a tourist destination. In 2022, Bay St. Louis determined that it needed a fresh vision and a new comprehensive plan. So we were fortunate enough to be engaged to create the plan. That was, it's called Bay St. Louis 2045, and it sets the direction. It complies with that legal criteria, but sets the long-range vision and direction of Bay St. Louis until amended, adjusted, discarded, whatever, but its current status as the adopted comprehensive plan. Now, once the plan was completed, the existing zoning code did not really align with this new, fresh vision that is expressed in the comprehensive plan. I'll touch on it briefly in a moment. So, as a part of the implementation of the plan, a code rewrite was requested. That was in the fall of 2024. And again, we were fortunate enough to be engaged in that process, fall of 24, and we use a best practice methodology for code rewrites or code writes, code composition, and that starts off with an assessment of any existing code, which we did and presented to the Planning Commission and Council in November of 24. And then after we had an assessment, which we'll look at momentarily, briefly, we went into the drafting phase. That took most of 2025. That was reviewed internally with city staff and quite thoroughly. And then once it was determined that it was in a good condition or ready to go for Planning Commission review and public comment, we presented that, and that was in January of this year. We presented it to the Planning Commission, and this being the current status, is officially the code is before the Planning and Zoning Commission, and we're in a period of public comment, receiving public comments for adjustments, positive aspects, concerns, things that we might want to include, whatever the public comment may be. We're in that period there. And then the final component in the scope will be to take in the public comments, make appropriate adjustments, present it back to the Planning Commission for recommendation, and then follow through with a presentation to the City Council. So I hope that's helpful just to give the context and perspective of the timeline of the overall project. Again, the code here is written to implement the comprehensive plan, Bay St. Louis 2045. We went through the planning process. I'm going to kind of breeze through these slides real quickly. We did an analysis of various kinds of data projecting community growth going forward, the magnitude of it. We had an incredibly robust public engagement process. We had really thousands of touch points. We did focus groups trying to craft the vision for the community. Open houses, workshops, all these things were prioritized, and then ultimately distilled into some key values, community development values of Bay St. Louis that were expressed. Those included preserving downtown, environmental protection, improving the suburban commercial areas, balancing the community change, extending and improving mobility components, expanding mixed-use development style of development, increasing parks and recreation facilities, and strengthening development standards. Those were the key elements of it. So again, implementing the plan, moving into the coding, we want to, we're required to code based upon the plan. This is a best practices summary that sort of led us into the assessment of the plan. We address formatting, regulatory content, process, and administration according to best practices. So if I could share, I mentioned that we started with the assessment. This assessment report was presented in November of 24, and you will see as I scroll through it, we completed a survey of sort of an attitudinal survey of code users. Was it the existing zoning code, was it friendly? Where could it be improved? Was it, functioning well in the community? Was it achieving good outcomes? Those sorts of things. And basically the findings indicated it met basic functional requirements, but lots of potential for improvement, clarity, efficiency, and aligning it with the plan. Now, when we looked at we took the next step and looked at the structural analysis of the current code. And what this chart on the right-hand side of the screen indicates is across the top are the elements of a good, solid, functional zoning code. Down the left-hand column is the way the current Bay St. Louis code presents itself. And if it were well organized structurally, you'd have a pattern of dots that kind of follow this black line. But as you see, they're kind of scattered across all different sorts of elements of the code, and there's opportunity there for clarity and streamlining in that. Then from there, we move into organizing the code, the proposed code itself. This is a best practice organization in square one. This is the way the current code is organized, and the like colors are similar subject matter. So we color code them, see what we can group, see what we can collapse and combine, and end up in table number 4 with a streamlined proposed table of contents. So the assessment covers multiple other things. I'll just mention a couple that are pretty important. This is the zone to place type alignment. So the plan has place types. These are the place types that function as a future land use map. These are the existing zones. Where they align, we mark it. We also create notes as to what kinds of changes would be made to align the code with the plan. And then we describe the districts in a different kind of, propose describing the districts in a different kind of way that gets at the character of the neighborhoods, because the neighborhood character is so critical. It gets at the character of the commercial areas, and the naming conventions are more aligned. They're less technical and more aligned to the kinds of character that are that's being developed. I sure won't put your eyes out with this, but we go through the uses, modernize the use chart, take care of the antiquated components, propose changes and adjustments. That's there. And then internally, Bay St. Louis had already been collecting a number of comments as to how to improve the code. So that's the assessment. And as I mentioned, that was kind of gave us our marching orders to move forward once we presented that to Planning Commission and Council, and to move forward. So that's where we are. I know you want particular, there are going to be particular comments on particular aspects of the code, which are very much appreciated. We want to perfect it, and we want to get it in a position where it is productive and achieves the outcomes that you're looking for. So I don't know what screen I should stop on, Councilman Chairman Bradford, but that's kind of where we are. Do you have any questions on that? What I covered was sort of the law of planning, what we have to march under in terms of complying with the law, the timeline of the project, the way we got to the draft through the assessment, and now it's sort of before you for the comment period.
You know, so my plan from this point is to open it up to the council, and we'll just go down if we have any questions to go ahead and ask those now. But I also did want to request if we could, this presentation, if we could add it to, I know the assessment, the presentation that was just presented, if we can add it to the website, city website, that way, because a lot of it's really small, hard to see on the screen we have in front of us, but that way we can put our eyes on it.
Yeah, absolutely. I will mention one other thing before you move on. In the back of the final section of Bay St. Louis 2045 is what's called an implementation agenda. There are 35 or 40 strategies here that were developed, and this is the adopted Bay St. Louis plan. One of the key implementation strategies was to align the code to this particular plan, and it's mentioned. You know, there's several coding issues that are mentioned in the implementation matrix, and I just want to call it to your attention to know that that's kind of what's driving the process.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, we'll go ahead and start. Councilwoman Moynihan, did you have any questions to start with Bob, or if not, we'll just work our way down?
Well, I had, I have some specific questions. One question that just came up today that I was looking at is the legacy in relation to, Legacy District in relation to, the new zoning district, and it states that, and it might be a typo, and if it is, we probably need to change it. In the, Old Town Low, it's described as the, legacy part as R1 and R1A. Could you, that seems awfully, diverse. Bob?
Did they cite a particular page reference, Councilman?
It's in, 3, where the, I was just trying to, I wasn't really ready for this.
Is it table 3-1 that references the legacy districts? Is that what?
Yes,
I believe she's talking about table 3-1, where it references the new
Yeah,
zoning
so-
districts and the legacies. I know Lila, is that the GIS, the GIS
Yes.
person? So I've been working with her to try to get an overlay to kind of clarify. I think that would clean up some of those. I think it would help with your question. Are you saying showing where some of those other districts, those legacy districts are in relation to the new proposed districts?
yeah.
So that's something that there's a kind of in the works of an overlay. I haven't touched base with her since Friday, but I need to reach back out with her and continue to work on that. But I think that would help. I don't know if you're familiar with
I'm waiting
if she
on
showed it
that.
to you, Bob, or not. But her
Yeah,
and I
yes,
went back and forth.
Yes, we've conferred on it, and that overlay you're looking forward to analyze how that's laid out currently is in process. Yes,
And,
and the table is simply intended to translate the current districts into their most most closest equivalent district. The proposed district translated into their most closest equivalent in the old code.
okay.
Is that all? Did you have anything?
At the moment.
At the moment.
Yeah, I'm waiting on the zoning map, the
Zoning map,
individual
okay.
maps as well. The issues that I had received already sent to Riso, so I'm assuming, are we gonna address the actual comments?
Tonight?
Yeah.
No, so we're gonna open after we run through the. I mean, you could bring up whatever you would like to bring up specifically, but as far as tonight, if we have any questions for Bob, whatever they may be,
Yeah, it's just some of the comments that have already been submitted. I
submitted.
know we were gonna actually
and
touch
and then
on it
we'll use this time tonight as well to collect more public comment. We do have the court reporter to document it. And then Bob, once all these comments are submitted and we pick a definite date to cut off public comment, we are going to have a complete list, a complete set of public comments compiled for us, correct?
Most definitely, we will we've already made a preliminary list, but, comments are still filtering in, and we will create a report that addresses each of the comments, yes. We'll group them, categorize them, analyze them report them to you for your review, but provide responses and adjust the code accordingly, yes.
Yeah. And I would say for the last 2 weeks, I probably received the most comment from the public. So I think everyone's finally starting to get aware of this being proposed. I don't know if it was the advertisements, but I think everyone's talking about it now. So they're going to be coming in probably even more frequently after this meeting as well, I would imagine. So
yeah.
Turn it over to you guys on the call.
Yeah. So first off, Bob, appreciate the opportunity. I think this is the first time we've been able to collectively meet as a council and with the public to address some of these, the proposed zoning ordinance with you. So appreciate your availability and time in doing that. About a year ago, we were going through this process, and I was truly anxiously awaiting to see what would come about. I represent Ward 4, and Ward 4 is one of the areas that we've been most inundated with some of the higher density development. And probably about a year ago, and Bob, I think you were here, when we were discussing going into the zoning ordinance, I'd specifically mentioned a couple areas in Ward 4, and I won't get too granular, but I do want to point out when we're talking about what may come, what the zoning may be in the future. I referenced an area by Ballantyne, so it's between Central and 3rd. Those kind of areas, and I have many examples of that throughout Ward 4, where conditions have changed, meaning Ballantyne is right now sitting in an R2 zoning district, so that's single family and then duplex. But of that specific area, 34 of the homes are single family, and so again, that was zoned R2 years ago, but conditions have changed, and so my goal was how can we encourage and necessitate the need to uphold the lower density, not have the inundation of some of the smaller and subdivided lots. And so, much to my surprise and dismay, in that specific area, it's zoned R2, 10,500 square feet, 75-foot lot widths. It's essentially been cut down by 3,000 square feet to 7,060-foot lot widths. So it really went to the opposite direction of what the feedback from the citizens in that area that we've been getting, what we had anticipated and envisioned as that condition changed from it being zoned R2, where it really is the conditions being single family. And I've got instances all throughout Ward 4 where that's a similar scenario. We've got areas over by Shieldsboro. It's the same thing. Back in 2021, we had to fight very hard. When I was on planning and zoning, in fact, we had developers coming and saying, hey, we need to take 2 lots, make it into 1, because we can't move those small lots. So we fought to get it to the R2 standards. Same premise that's being pushed out on this new zoning ordinance is we're going backwards in terms of the high density. So that's my biggest concern, and that kind of leads me, and I know we'll get more granular. I've submitted some comments, and I'm sure we'll get some answers on, but that seems to be the overarching theme and concern, at least in Ward 4, areas that are historically R1 with 12,000 square feet, good-sized lots. We no longer have that. There is not a comparable zoning district in this new proposal that meets those same requirements. Everything is more dense. The lowest density is still higher density than what we currently have. So I guess my question, going through the scope of service that you provided the council, I think section 1.4 does state, you're going to identify a group of stakeholders that will be electronically surveyed for prioritization of code revision and components. Amongst those will be planning commissioners, staff, developers, real estate professionals, and then citizen groups. And so I guess my question is, during this process, I know in the comprehensive plan, we did have some meetings, we did have an advisory committee, but to my understanding up to this point, this is actually the first meeting we've had collectively with the council and also with the public stakeholders. Because my understanding, again, there was meetings with developers, with real estate agents, but with contractors, with architects. And I'm not knocking that, but when we're extrapolating information from those individuals, they're there to make a living. So they're not there to make things harder to develop. They're there to see how can we make things easier. And it's, again, no knock on them. And that's our responsibility to extrapolate this and understand, what do we do to uphold what we need to do as far as the ordinance. So I guess my question too is, so during that time of discovery, who was involved? Who are the main stakeholders? And who was involved from the administrative side to show you some of the background? Because I can give you many more examples of Ballantyne, of Shieldsboro, of those areas in my ward that have a lot of historical knowledge that could have shed some insight as to, why that wouldn't warrant denigrating the lower density and providing higher density. So who did you meet with in the administration to find out what the needs are?
We met, well, first of all, as I mentioned earlier, we're coding the comprehensive plan. We had, a very robust engagement process in the comprehensive plan. When we got to the coding component, we did survey the users from the list that we were provided from the administrator's office. We worked with your planning director and your planning and your administrator. I'm sorry, but my Alexa is going off. Hold on one second. Sorry. Alexa comes on with the news headlines at this time every night. We worked internally. We conducted the assessment. We provided it to the Planning Commission. We did the survey, and we worked with the adopted comprehensive plan. Now, when you mention the areas, first of all, I disagree. They're not high density. They are still medium and low density zones. There are changes, yes, proposed. However,
Bob,
those
would you agree
changes can
though,
be
and sorry, no,
reversed,
you would agree
but-
based on the
but-
square footage of those zones, it is it's more dense than anything we have now. Even the lowest density, based on the square footage and the lot width, right? I just wanna make sure we're talking the same terminology.
We're talking, yes, I do agree, but that we had two competing or two goals that emerged from the process. It was our information that there was lots of variance requests. And the variance requests had to come before the authorities, and the zoning is mismatched in many instances to the lots on the ground, according to the diagram that I shared with you. So we adjusted that to respect the spirit of preserving the character of the neighborhood, but also address this topic of the variances. If that's not the direction, we'll just change the minimum lot size back. It's not,
And just,
but that's the reasoning for that particular thing.
and Bob, just so I can better understand, so this is predicated on the facts that based on the variances that have been requested and granted, we made a change based off of that. Because I think quoting on page 160 of the comprehensive plan, a zoning code is only successful when administered and enforced consistently. And that's on us. That's city council. That's planning and zoning, but that's city council ultimately. But we shouldn't base a decision to change the zoning based on past and historical data or what variances were given so that somebody doesn't just have to come ask for a variance. That's our jobs to make sure we take each case subjectively, case by case, because not everything's the same. But ultimately, what I have an issue is if we're doing a broad stroke of, well, we're just going to see what variances were out there and we're given, and we're just going to make it to where they don't have to ask for a variance. I have issues with that. I don't think that's what the decision should be predicated upon. We should be upholding up here, and I've made mistakes, planning and zoning, city council, we probably all have, and that I regret. But I don't want to be held to where those mistakes will now set forth the future of our zoning that could change the landscape forever. I mean, that's why we're up here, and we have to look at each one individually, but that shouldn't be the basis of the decision.
Well, it was our conclusion that the zone in many instances was mismatched to the existing development patterns. And so to better match it, the adjustment was proposed. But if that's not the direction that you want, if you don't want to do that, again, we can change that. It's as simple as that.
I will ask the audience to not interrupt. I know there was an outbreak, but
Yeah, I think we're
That's
all
the
agreeing
whole
with that.
purpose for our comment period is that appreciate the comment, understand that's where we are.
And I just have one or two more.
Yeah, that's
Okay. So Bob, I know throughout the zoning ordinance, it makes reference quite a few times of director of planning, and this is a question too, Mike. So do we have the director of planning right now named? We have that individual in the city?
That would be our planning zoning.
Okay, is he here tonight? Is Jamie here? I think that would be relevant for our director of planning, because he is cited many times throughout this ordinance, and there's a lot of autonomy and leeway, actually, in decision-making capability. On page 52, it gives the director of planning the complete autonomy if there is a application that's submitted that may not be spelled out in the chart of use. It gives the director of planning sole ability to approve that without any direction from the P&Z or city council. So I just want to make that abundantly clear. So we do have that individual. They're not here tonight. Do you think it would be relevant? So Jeremy was involved. I think Heather had mentioned Jeremy and Mike Reese were heavily involved, worked tirelessly on this, working with Bob. And this is kind of what we landed on. So, again, this is the first time really hearing definitively that we've made the basis of these decisions off of past ordinances. I'd love to hear from other council, but For me, just one person up here, I don't think that's what we should be basing this ordinance off of, is just what ordinances have been given or variances have been given in the past. One other item too, Bob, I was looking at page 157 on the comprehensive plan. It is a detailed build-out calculation. And so roughly, it's we've got about 2,232 acres of vacant land left in the city. Of that, about 88% is considered R1. So about 1,900 acres of that is of vacant land is R1. 187 is R2, and then 72 is R3. So close to 90% of the buildable land, vacant land in the city, is now potentially, based on what we've been given on the setbacks and the total square footage, is going to be 100% more dense than what we currently have now. So that's where the major issue is. It's not so much, I know if you get rezoned or your setbacks and you're already existing, but we're more concerned too of what the growth and development is on vacant land. So that's a pivotal piece, that R1, that's 88% of the vacant land we have left, is no longer going to have those setbacks of the 12,000 square feet, 100-foot lot widths, 25-foot setbacks to the front, 20 on the back. That's no longer the case. So that's also my concern, is that we have made it much easier to heavily develop and have more density on that acreage that we have left available.
Well, we're coding the adopted comprehensive plan. If you want that shifted, or if you want the place type to have a different character, it would just.
Okay, and this is my last, I don't want to monopolize, we got a lot of people want to come speak, and the council too. My last question, so throughout this process, just so I better understand, so you'll extrapolate all of the information discussed tonight. Are you going to push out another rendition, another draft, or just help me illustrate, once you take a look at those comments? I think we'll probably have a series of workshops, I would imagine, because a lot needs to be discussed.
No, sir, we didn't scope a series of workshops. We scoped, as the law calls for, presenting a comment draft to the Planning Commission, which is where the code is right now for public comment and for Planning Commission review. We'll get those comments and then create a report, address them in the final draft, and then represent it for recommendation and adoption. Now, if we want to schedule more input sessions, absolutely, we can do that. Certainly, it's up to the council on that.
Yeah, I think that would be the pleasure of council. But from what I understand, so you would extrapolate those comments, do a final. I do think we would probably want to have another.
Before the final.
Yeah, another couple workshops and kind of see what those changes were and how we get a chance to digest that.
Most definitely.
Yeah, so Bob, outline the path going forward here. So this is our first draft. From my understanding, based on the contract, we have a second draft that will come before us. Then we'll have another public comment period, and then there will be a final draft pushed out, correct?
So the way our scope reads is that we will present a draft to the Planning Commission and for public comment, receive those public comments, adjust the code accordingly, and then represent it to the Planning Commission for consideration for action. And certainly the Planning Commission can advise us to make other adjustments there. The council can right up to the very end. My only point is this: we skip. That is an ordinary scheduling of workflow for our code work. If we want to add in additional workshops, by all means we can do that. Yes, sir. But representing, collecting the comments, making the adjustments to the code, presenting back to the Planning Commission for action, and then forwarding it to the council for final consideration.
The reason I'm asking for the second draft, because I think we're going to see that this first draft and the second draft are going to be very different based on the comments that are coming in. So I think we're going to have a second public comment period before we have a final presented.
Yeah, at least.
Yes, sir. Completely up to council. If we want to adjust the scope that way, we certainly will do that.
You got anything?
No.
Okay. Well, kind of piggybacking off of some of the stuff Councilman Lewis had made it made along the way. As far as outside of variances, this is something I hosted a town hall last Friday, and one of the biggest, I guess one of the questions that came from that is outside of variances, what other factors were taken into account when rezoning? Were average lot sizes, average frontage, any of that taken into account?
Yes, sir, both of those things, and nothing's been rezoned, by the way. The code is to be reflective of the comprehensive plan. So we start out with the place type maps and then go from there. And then adjust, account for existing lot sizes. There's a lot of subdivided land in Bay St. Louis. And so accounting for those lot frontages and those lot sizes, and with respect to the future development map that is in the comprehensive plan itself, showing the various place types and their various locations.
And also in the assessment that you had showed us, they had a user survey, and it outlined that 20 users were identified between the council, planning commission, and staff, but only 12 had responded. Do you know what 20 were asked to participate and which 12 participated?
I can't, the survey is anonymous, so I don't, we always use anonymous surveys, so I can't track that information down.
Yeah. And then next, I did have just kind of a comment along the way. Looking at the, during your presentation, you had kind of some of the elements that, when this was implemented, we wanted to achieve taken from the comprehensive plan. And, looking at the comprehensive plan and then looking at the proposed zoning ordinance to code to that, I do think trying to achieve some of those elements, I saw the intentions and it was trying to be done there, but I did think we were sacrificing and was a little too heavy on the density side. So I want to try to still achieve those goals that were identified in the comprehensive plan, but I don't want to sacrifice density in order to get to that point. And I think that's been a common, from all the comments I've received, the phone calls, I think that's been a common theme amongst the residents as well. So I did want to point that out. And then also, I just wanted to touch on, if you could, I know you and I had a conversation previously regarding the need for a complete rewrite and kind of identifying the what and whys. I know that came from the assessment. Can you touch on that a little bit as well?
Yes, sir. The city requested the rewrite, and the rewrite came out of the need for that came out of the concepts that are presented in Bay St. Louis 2045. The existing code will not achieve the kind of vision that is expressed in that comprehensive plan. I can say that with a high degree of confidence. It's just not equipped to do it. For instance, when you look in the comprehensive plan, you will see a very well done redevelopment of one of your shopping center areas on the Highway 90 corridor. The current plan will not produce, the current code will not produce it. It can't produce it. Right now, that property is the value. It is way more highly valuable, redeveloped in alignment with Bay St. Louis's vision than in its current condition. And then to repeat myself, the current code is not equipped to achieve. One of the goals in the plan is to achieve a much better aesthetic presentation of the Highway 90 corridor. The current code's not going to do it. You're going to keep getting what you're getting in all likelihood. So that's how we get to the rewrite. That's just one example. There are other examples. Let's go to environmental preservation. In the current code, the cluster provisions, are absent. And you've got, beautiful land that, you know, where it's subdivided wall to wall would be environmentally, not good and would, produce sprawl, suburban sprawl. So the need for clustering, environmental provisions, open space preservation, all of that kind of component is in the code. And then that's just two examples of the regulatory content. The other examples are the formatting and the organization. And you saw that in the assessment. You know, scattered, if you're looking to operate under the code, it's hard to follow because of its scattered nature and so forth. Again, the current code serves a time and a place and a function, but we are 2026 now, and methods change, and visions change, and codes need to change as well. So sorry for the belabored long answer, but I'm just trying to make sure I'm conveying a sense of the need for rewrite.
Hey, Bob, just real quick question, just to follow up on that. Is there a reason, so they were, on the comprehensive plan, page 159, it's the zoning code alignment review, so there's an estate lot zone, and that seems like that would be actually the most consistent with R1 and preservation of some of the larger lots. Is there a reason that was omitted from the actual zoning ordinance? Because that seems like, especially in Ward 4, that seems like it's a natural area. We have a number of those estate lots that actually were changed to a Old Town neighborhood low and medium. So is there a reason that estate lots we're not seeing that in the new ordinance?
Mr. Lewis, I'll have to take a look at that page 159
Yeah, page 159. And
to
that's, yeah,
see.
and it states, yeah.
In the comment period, if that's the, you know, if the comment reevaluate the inclusion of an estate zone, estate lot, or how we can implement that, or I think this is inadequately addressed, or phrase it, we can go back and evaluate that and see how that should play out.
Yeah, thank you.
Good. Good.
Hey, Mr. Bob, this is Linda Davis, Ward 5. Ward 5 and Ward 6 are
Hey, Ms. Davis.
the two wards that actually have waterfront lots, not beachfront, but actual canals and such. And we have submitted some comments from those that live on the water. Those have been sent to you, and I received another one, just someone's watching the streaming right now. And they're wanting to know more about the W1 and the W2, why the uses, that some were removed and some that were added when it seems like everything was working as they were.
I'll have to go back and evaluate exactly how we proposed that, but we did note, I do know that we had a single use zone just for the yacht club, for example. And that's not a best zoning practice to have a single use zone. So we collapsed that into, we have place types, by the way. We have a riverfront, we have a beachfront, or a bayfront, the two place types. And so, as my recollection of the code, they're coded essentially the same. There may be a minor variation there. We did receive a comment. I noted that to make sure that the gazebos and so forth are properly treated and not permitted between Beach Boulevard and, but
Bob, we lost you. Can you,
they're essentially that,
Bob, can you hear us?
yeah,
We
I
lost,
can hear you. Yeah,
It's cutting out.
you're cutting in and out on us.
I'm here. Okay, I'm same here. How about now?
Yep, we can hear you now. We-
Okay. Where did I stop? Where did you stop? Stop hearing me?
At gazebo. Caitlin, can we get him to call?
Yeah,
in
we need to
do the
check our
line?
line.
Since we don't need a presentation.
We need to check our line.
1 second, Bob. We're gonna see.
Sorry.
We're gonna see if we can get you to call into the phone. That way we can just have audio,
Maybe
because I
clear.
believe you're done with your presentation now. So we can just turn audio
Yeah.
on.
Okay. Should I call you or you gonna call me?
Just call on here.
We'll get you to call into the Teams meeting. I believe it has a number with it, right? All right.
Okay, let me see how to do that.
Can I call directly on here? All right, Bob. I'm gonna call you. We're calling you now.
Yes, sir.
Sorry, I'm not able to get to the phone right now. Must be busy.
I'm called.
Hey, Bob. Hey, Bob. I'm gonna call you off. I'm gonna call you off of the conference phone. So it went to voicemail. I'm gonna try again. All right.
Hi, if you record your name and reason for calling.
Okay, perfect. We got you. Okay, you were at Gazebo.
Because it was being strapped down.
I can't hear him.
Put your microphone near it.
Put your, yeah,
Okay,
Put
let me
your
mute.
mic.
Jordan.
He's muted his computer.
You got it, Caitlin. You got to mute the. I might be able to do it. And Linda, you got to mute yours.
Technology. I can probably just log out.
Yeah, we could probably just cut off of the
Y'all just want to log
screen
out
now.
of
Yeah.
the Teams.
There we go. I'm gonna hang up. No, I'm gonna hang up the team. Okay. I'm good. So at Gazebo, we got a comment on the language was, needed adjusting to make sure that we captured the no gazebos or the no structures between Beach Boulevard and the seawall. So, yeah, we'll go back and do that and make sure that is, that's correct. And then the other waterfront components, really, the changes, there weren't that many changes that I recall, but we'll go back and review it and see.
Okay. I'll send these actual comments to you, too, Mr. Bob.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I believe what Miss Linda was referring to was all the riverfront.
Yeah.
You created a lot more riverfront districts abutting residential areas, especially in Ward 6 and 5. And I think that's a concern to people, because there wasn't even zone for that. Some of them was just R1As in different areas, so that was one concern that was really there, especially on the Old Coca-Cola Ranch property, referring to that one. And going down the 40-foot lots there is something we definitely don't want, because as Mr. Lewis stated earlier, I don't think nobody wants anything to be less dense than what we started with. More dense, I'm sorry. So we definitely did look at that throughout the whole city. And I guess y'all do this for a living. We don't. There was no red line. It was a complete rewrite. We got it, same time public got it. So it's a lot to digest. There's a lot of, I won't say errors, but there's a lot of things I think that isn't what the city's looking for in the opinion of the people or the council. So I think it's definitely needs to be reworked. My impression being here longer when we started the process was y'all was gonna review what we had, make recommendations to change it. Instead, we just got a whole new ordinance, and that wasn't what I had intended for, to be honest, as a council person that's been here for 8 years. So I just think we need to back up, look at it, and really look at it carefully, because once we adopt it, if we miss something, all we're gonna hear is, well, y'all passed it. And we don't wanna hear that in a year or two, because there are so many things, as you were stating, C3, it needs to be cleaned up. But some of the things I'm reading in C3 is gonna make it so expensive to build, which will raise taxes on the building, which will raise rent on the building, and we can't fill the vacant buildings we have on Highway 90 already at the low rate. So we can want to be Madison, but we're not, and we can't get those rates here. So I think there's a lot of things that really need to be looked at and reevaluated. I think we need to take our time. And when you said changing the scope of work, is that changing the scope of financials, or is that in what we already agreed to moving forward?
Is he there?
You there, Bob?
I'm here. You'll have to restate the question. I couldn't quite understand it all.
When we talked, earlier we was talking about having more public comments, more public workshops, and you kept saying,
Just to make sure, can you hear him now, Bob?
It's easier if you'll restate the question, George.
Slide it down.
can you hear me now, Bob?
Yeah, yes, sir. Thank you.
The question was earlier when we was talking about additional workshops. We think it needs a lot of work still. from the
hear you.
public.
We got some chatter in the room. It's already hard enough to hear as well. If we can keep comments to,
So the question was, is that gonna be in the scope that we already approved, or when you say we can do that, is that additional money to pay y'all to have the additional workshops and comment periods?
So we scoped a draft to the planning commission, and then public comment period, and then creating a final draft for the planning commission. So the final draft would be a workshop with the planning commission, and then once the planning commission makes its recommendation, it goes to council, and certainly that could be a workshop as well. But that's what our scope states at this time.
but Bob, we have one more so that final that would go to the planning and zoning. We would, if the council wants to make changes to that, we still have one more revision
Yeah.
to that final in our
Yeah.
in our contract.
Yes.
And we may need more.
Yeah, I mean, one may not be enough.
Now,
So,
that's what I'm thinking.
The second draft is going to be stellar.
Yeah, so, now, can we be more involved along the way than we was to this point? Because we was kinda just kept in the dark until the last minute and got this, and really didn't have no input, and I think the council and the people need a lot more input moving forward now.
So I don't want to get into really negotiating a scope change or a shift. What I'd prefer to do there is I'd just speak with the administration as to how best to proceed forward based on the public comments. And I again, with all respect, I understand what you're asking me. I can't sit here and detail it all out when we're not even through the first public comment period and we hadn't produced the next draft.
Yes, okay, we'll just watch moving forward,
Yep.
so, now, I'll just keep getting my comments and make sure we send them in, but that was my main questions for tonight, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
You want to take my spot there?
Hey man, this is Councilman Smith. Councilman Lewis and Councilman Bradford have already articulated my concerns with the density. And the only thing that I think we need to touch on, as far as I'm concerned, it's a very small thing, is a lot of people have told me that the maps that have been given and delivered over are very difficult to read, especially with the gradient colors that you use.
Color, yes, we did get that comment, yes, sir.
And if there's a way that we can go ahead and give the public a more definitive line of where they are on the maps, that would help tremendously.
Yes, sir, so noted. We'll adjust the color palette to be more clear and test it with you first, so that, make sure we get it right.
Okay, all right, thank you, sir.
Anyone else have anything else? Yeah, before we get into the public comment, Bob, I wanna point out, kind of touching on what Josh had mentioned as far as, input from the council. I know it's the traditional way is you have a planning commission that has some input and has hearings regarding this. I think it's pretty evident that we have a pretty hands-on council that wants to be involved, and ultimately we're the 7 votes that have to pass it. So I really just want to reiterate, if we can have, I'm okay with holding the workshops and having the hearings. I'd like for our planning commission to be involved with that, but just want to point that out and stress that I know it's not the traditional way that it's proposed, but we do have a council that's willing and wanting to be involved in the next step so we can get this right. But with that being said, I wanted to kind of point out a time frame. I know we have some work to do on some of the maps to be presented, but we do have to eventually cut our first public comment period off. We don't have to make that decision today, obviously, but it's something for the council to start thinking about moving forward. When we get all the tools that we need to review it, we do have to set a date. So maybe at our next meeting, just have that in the back of your mind, and we can come forward and get that to Bob so we can continue moving forward. So,
All right.
anyways, the next steps to this meeting, and thank everyone for sticking with us and being here tonight. Glad y'all find it equally as important. So we're gonna go ahead and start with, we'll go into public comment. We do have a 5-minute time limit tonight. So you kind of have a little bit more time than we usually give you, but we still have to be courteous of everyone else in the room. We do have, just want to point out, we do have a court reporter here to document your verbal comments as another method to get this submitted to Orion. So when you come forward, if you would like your comments to be sent in to Orion, I'm going to ask you to state that, as well as state and spell your name, so that our court reporter can document that and get that sent over. And then I believe we have email addresses on here, because that is what we're going to need to contact you. So with that being said, we'll go ahead and start with our first guest who signed up, Mr. John Oman.
Isn't technology wonderful? John Oman, 110 Demontleson Avenue.
Mr. John, can you spell your name just for the reporter? I'm sorry about that.
Well, I was going to say that I don't think my comments are really going to have any place.
Okay,
in
so
them.
you don't want to.
But actually, I wanted to thank the council generally and specifically about the efforts you all have made to become informed on this issue and to get the pulse of the community. So you Jordan, and Mr. Smith held the workshop last week. Ms. Moynihan was there taking the pulse of the community as well. Mr. Lewis has had quite a few questions on the website, and some of which he's addressed here this evening, and I look forward to hearing more details on those. And because I haven't made anybody else, I'm just not aware of what you're doing, but I do know that you all are actively involved in it. I don't have any advice for you. Wish it did. You knew you couldn't please everybody when you registered to run for these offices. If you didn't know it, you know it now. Just one thing I want to relate to you. I thought, you know, at my house, I live right behind the Baytown Inn. And that property has been in my family for almost 50 years, so I have an idea of how it's been even before I lived there. And I spend a lot of time on my front porch, sitting there just being old. And the one thing I notice, there are no neighborhood kids. There's lots of children around, but they're visiting grandchildren or they're from the vacation rentals, that sort of thing. Now, that doesn't have anything specifically to do with a zoning ordinance here or there or lot sizes or anything else. But neighborhoods do change over time. But mentioning the kids, we all like to hang on the phrase low density, but please, in your decisions, keep in mind we have got to have young families moving in here. They have to have a place to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. John. Okay, we're gonna move on to John Benton, Mr. John Benton. And if you would, just as a reminder, as you're coming up, if you'd like this to be recorded, please spell your name for the record.
John Benton, John, B as in Bravo, Enton. I'm at 134 Carroll Avenue in the Bay here. Also, I'd like to thank the council. Very impressed with what I saw tonight, your actual concern for the community. I'm new here. I've been here about 5 years, and overall, it's refreshing to see people that do care. Not only y'all, but people in my neighborhood. Kyle, I think you answered my question on density. Did a good job there. I live in an area that's already developed, so I guess, you know, new development related density isn't on my radar. You know, I'm old, like, who was the old guy up here? Well, like you. So my vision's kind of short. I'm looking around my neighborhood, sitting on the porch, and I have a couple concerns and I guess some clarity also. I need some clarity. And I'm looking at the color-coded zone maps, or the, I guess the coding, you know, R1 versus, you know, downtown core, so forth. What I can tell, I'm at 134 Carroll, and going from my house to the beach, they have us down as 6 houses down towards the beach. I'm in the Old Town medium, which I don't quite understand that. And what I can tell is, Bob, can you hear me? Anyway. I'm doing my best. Thank you. Thank you. I'll try to speak up. Anyway, what I can tell, that's like R1 all the way to R3. Is that correct, Bob? The Old Town medium, OTM?
And just a reminder, we're gonna send these
Okay.
to Bob as well.
So R3 would be, you know, multi-use families, which I could not comprehend. It's already built out. So that's a concern. I guess some clarity there. I think we already talked about, you know, pausing this thing and studying a little bit closer. Other issue I have is the school is coded as downtown core, which would be the same as, that's a school at Second and Carroll, the abandoned school. That's color-coded blue, which is downtown core, which is same as the bars downtown, which I have a concern with that, the coding there. We don't want a bar in the middle of our, you know, residential area. And then short-term rental might piss some people off, but I got an issue next door. You've heard me talk about it. I'm just going to go ahead and, I got 2 minutes here.
This is the first I've heard.
Oh, yeah, maybe I imagine my, telling you this, but, so I got a place next door. It's got 9 bedrooms, which theoretically it can sleep 18 people. And next to that is another house with 5 bedrooms, which is, permitted for 13 or 12 people, but they advertise 13. So I have, close to 30 people are over on a weekend in our neighborhood, which I don't particularly like. It's like a hotel next door. A lot of noise, a lot of activity going on. So I'd like to have some, some consideration. I don't know if that'd fall under this zoning, the 2045 plan, but maybe sometime a limits on a number of short-term rentals, maybe a number of occupants per unit. Yeah, that's my concern. There's 3 things: the school, short-term rental, and then my particular zoning in our neighborhood. I don't know if I'm colorblind, if I'm reading all this right, but it looks like it's R3 in a lot of the areas, even away from 2nd Street heading west. Which it should be to me R1, everything. That's a residential part of town. That's it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Thank you,
Johnson.
sir.
All right.
Okay, we're gonna move on to the next person signed up is Donnie Hass. Door. 310 North.
Tony.
Now y'all have to come talk. No worries. Mr. Joe Monty.
Good evening.
And Mr. Joe, just a reminder, if you spell your name for the reporter,
Oh, I'll do that.
and that way she can send it in.
I'm Joe Monty, M-O-N-T-I, a parishioner of Our Lady of the Gulf Catholic Church. Our pastor, Father Michael O'Connor, apostrophe C-O-N-N-O-R, cannot be here tonight, but has asked me to read and present a letter as his public comment for the official record of this meeting. The letter is dated March 2nd, 2026. It's to the Bay St. Louis City Council members, Mayor Mike Favre, Jeremy Burke, Planning and Zoning Administrator, and Mr. Robert Barker, Orion Planning and Design. It's regarding the public comment for the record concerning the proposed total prohibition of residential dwelling in the Civic Institutional Zone CI district and its specific effect on the proposed rezoning of parcel 149L-0-29-148.000 to Civic Institutional. In the proposed BSL 2045 zoning map, the new zoning district of Civic and Institutional CI is designated to provide for medical, recreational, educational, civic, religious, assembly, and other institutional uses. Parcels of land owned by Our Lady of the Gulf and the Catholic Diocese where our schools, parish buildings, cemetery, churches, and offices are established are slated to be rezoned as civic institutional, whereas they were previously zoned R3, high-density multifamily residential. For the most part, the allowed uses for CI, as shown in the proposed zoning table 4-1 use matrix, are consistent with allowed R3 uses under the current zoning chart of uses. However, this new civic institutional district specifically prohibits any residential use within the proposed zone, and that presents an issue. Since 1847, the Catholic priests of Our Lady of the Gulf Parish have maintained a residential dwelling, a rectory, on its church property. Under the proposed zoning ordinance, it does not appear that this parish would be able to rebuild a dwelling if this new CI zone, if the current rectory gets wiped out again by another hurricane or catastrophic event. This is not an issue that affects just our parish. It affects the pastor's rectory at St. Rose de Lima, parishes on Nicates Avenue and 2 other Catholic communities of religious brothers and priests whose parcels in Bay St. Louis are being zoned civic institution. What changes can the city and Orion recommend to its proposed zoning ordinance to guarantee by right that the Catholic Church can rebuild residential dwellings for its religious community on its parcel being rezoned civic institutional? I respectfully ask you advise me and other Catholic religious leaders in Bay St. Louis of your recommended changes to correct this issue prior to considering the final adoption of the proposed BSL 2045 zoning ordinances and map. Peace and blessings, Reverend Michael P. O'Connor, pastor, Our Lady of the Gulf Catholic Church.
Thank you very much, Mr. Monty. Do you have a copy of the letter? You might, yeah, you can give it to Caitlin. Perfect. Thank you. Miss Kathleen Monty.
Good evening, Kathleen Monty, 105 Sycamore Street, KATHLEENMONTI. In February, I've submitted 8 pages of concerns regarding the proposed zoning ordinance and map through Jeremy Burke to be forwarded to you and to Orion Planning as my public comment. Tonight, I will not go over those concerns in detail, but I will list them briefly. Number 1, no sand beach protection districts. Number 2, increased density created by reduced lots and setbacks. Number 3, increase in eligibility of accessory dwellings on undersized parcels under 15,000 square feet, which will increase density and traffic. Number 4, sexually oriented entertainment and sexually oriented retail allowed by right and or by special exception in zoning districts surrounded by neighborhoods and schools. Number 5, the Depot District zoning change from neighborhood commercial to downtown core and its adverse impact on our neighborhoods. Number 6, group home use proposed by right in multiple residential districts when it should logically be by special exception instead. That was what I had previously submitted. And if you have not seen that yet, I can get you copies. Tonight, I am discussing Article 10, the administrative processes and enforcement. This section covers building permits and application requirements, public hearings, zoning amendments, special exceptions, and variances. Every Planning and Zoning Commission meeting ever held involves multiple applications with requests for variances and or special exceptions to the zoning ordinance. Occasionally, there are amendment changes as well. As I compared the requirements and protocol of our current zoning ordinance to the proposed BSL 2045 zoning ordinance, 2 concerns stood out, and the most important one concerns public notice. BSL 245, Section 10.4.1, Public Hearing, states, quote, "The hearing shall be advertised at least 15 days in advance of a meeting in a newspaper of local circulation on the subject property on the city's website as public notice," end quote. In our current zoning ordinance, owners of properties within 300-foot radius of the external boundaries of the subject property requesting a variance or special exception were notified by mail not less than 15 days prior to the date of the P&Z hearing of a proposed property change. Now this appears to be gone from the proposed zoning ordinance. If I'm mistaken, and it is in the ordinance somewhere, please tell me where to look. I realize that sending out multiple notices to property owners for every application being brought before P&Z does require more city man-hours and expense. However, I feel it's essential to continue this notification to surrounding property owners if you truly want to give public notice to surrounding owners. As an example, on the first block of Sycamore Street where I live, there are 25 parcels of land. Of those, 10 are permanent residents, that's 40%. So that leaves 60% of the others live out of town, do not subscribe to the Seacoast Echo, and will likely never routinely check the city's website for hearing notices. And it wouldn't surprise me if other streets have similar ratios. Please do not omit this important aspect from our new ordinance. The second concern regards new department and job title terminology, which I found confusing in Article 10. And it's like Community Development Department, Building Official, Director of Planning. And I also found that the appeals process was a little confusing. So I wondered if it might be helpful to insert a small organizational flow chart that might clarify things for each of the processes covered in Section 10, like how to get a building permit and how that would flow, and applying for a variance or special exception, how would that flow, or the appeals process. Thank you for holding this workshop and public hearing tonight, and I look forward to seeing the second draft. Thank you. Look, 26 seconds to go.
Thank you, Ms. Martin. Stop this before it beeps. We have, is that John and Jane Gleason? Did I read that right? Y'all were just here? All right. Phil and Barb Seawright?
Wanted to deviate a little bit from my notes after hearing some of the comments. This is all about giving input, and the really big input.
And Mr. Seawright, before I start the time, I just want to, if you want your comments recorded, if you could just spell your name for the recorder. If you would like them submitted.
Phil Seawright, Seawright. Okay. Let's see where was it there. All about preservation. In the original 2045 plan, I use the word mandated. It's actually mandated that preservation and growth be balanced. And, you know, I haven't seen that from my personal experience, and I'm largely focused on the problems with short-term rentals. It's missing. So in this draft with the changes to the zoning, I would like to see a change that is in favor of preserving the neighborhoods, not in favor of increasing the density to bring other things into our established neighborhoods. To give an example of that, I also live in the first block of Carroll Avenue, and I've actually counted the houses in all the work I've done on this, and there are 26 properties in the first block, and all of them but 2 are single-family residents. Those 2 are the ones that John was referring to, which are very high-density short-term rentals. It's unacceptable. I can't imagine. It's like a commercial hotel operation. So in the interest of making changes that actually help the preservation of the neighborhood, I'd like to see our zoning changed to R1. I know there's no longer an R1, but whatever the equivalent is. And right now, like John pointed out, every property in the first block is zoned Old Town Low, except for those 6, which are Old Town Medium. And that someone has done that to open the door for people to move in and develop things in certain ways. And that's exactly what we don't want to see. If that's what this plan's about, then we're going in the wrong direction. So in my like I said, I want to just say over and over again that I want to see preservation of the character of the neighborhoods. Every single decision made going forward, I want that to be up front, the most important thing. That's coming from me. I hope it goes somewhere. And input from the comprehensive plan established a very strong emphasis on preservation. Please ensure that the administrators are held accountable for this. Now, as an example, the city council approved this short-term rental ordinance. You know, it's the most lame, relaxed, least strict short rental on the whole coast, and it's not being enforced. I mean, you can create a perfect ordinance here in this new work, and if it's not enforced, it's totally worthless, right? So I wanted to, and And of course, the short-term rentals are one of my big things, and I don't know if Bob's listening, but I'm sure he recognizes my name because I sent in a lot of input on the short-term rentals, and some of you know I can talk about this for hours, but I won't. So I sent in a lot of input for new ideas about an ordinance, but the single most important thing is that it's enforced. And a big thing about it, this word density pops up all over the place. When it comes to short-term rentals, that applies to how many short-term rentals can be in a given area. As an example, some of the cities actually have a rule where they can only have one short-term rental per city block. I think that's very reasonable, and it exists in some other towns, but not here. So, and then the other one is, if it's a single-family residence, how can you have a short-term rentals that can sleep out this number of people and call that preservation of the neighborhood? That's ridiculous. It's like the exact opposite. And I think someone should be held accountable for that, and we are working in that direction. I got a little sidetracked. I got a couple seconds left, but I'll let that go. I think you got the general idea. And I appreciate all of you. I've talked to all of you individually, and I appreciate your help and what you're doing. And so thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Rod Ward?
Yeah, I don't know if you can be able to answer this tonight,
You gonna spell your name,
but,
Mr. Rod?
you know, it's kind of ironic.
Mr. Rod, did you want your comments recorded and
Yeah, it
sent
can
over?
be Rod Ward, 812 South Beach Boulevard. You know, it's ironic in our 250th year of a representative form of government, this whole process took off without the citizens, we the people. We weren't part of the consulting process. It was identified by Mr. Lewis, and I know that y'all didn't know, but I think that's something that needs to be discussed, reviewed, and not just on this issue, but every issue. And that's all I got to say.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ward. Okay, moving on, we got Mr. Scott Gregory.
My name is Scott Gregory. I'm with Lamar Advertising. That address is 10571 Outdoor Way in Gulfport.
Do you mind spelling your name for?
Oh yeah, SCOTT GREGORY. And our real estate manager Dan Adams and myself, we've sent some of this comment to Jeremy and Bob, but we just wanted to take every opportunity to be on the record and hopefully be a resource on the topic of the sign ordinance aspect of this. You know, I've said in front of this body before, Lamar is not in favor of an overabundance of off-premise advertising. You know, that's our business. We operate 12 of the 16 structures that fall within Bay St. Louis, just on Highway 90 and Highway 603. So, you know, we're actually in favor of the way the ordinance reads now and is in the master plan to cap that so that there aren't any more. Because like I said, we don't want an overabundance that affects our product negatively. And a lot of the local Bay St. Louis advertisers, you know, utilize our product. But we do have, and have sent this, a suggestion to improve some clarity on it and hopefully proactively head off a problem we've seen with an ordinance like this in other areas. One unintended consequence of having an ordinance that just caps it with no allowance for modernizing these structures. A lot of times what you'll find is the billboard operators like us, we have no incentive to do anything to modernize the structures. You know, it's hard to maintain them. You can't keep up with the times, and really you're doing everything possible just to keep those given structures however they are in the air. So our suggestion that we hope the council will consider, and again would be happy to answer any questions, be a resource through this process, is a credit system where, you know, companies that have a structure like ourselves could have the opportunity to convert a face to modernize it into a digital display, And there are some benefits with that. You know, one, it actually incentivizes companies like us to reduce the number of structures, which we know the goal is to cap it. In a lot of cases, have less. And so if we have two structures close together, if the ability exists to convert one into a digital, a lot of times we can take that one closest to it, reduce lease expense, cut it down, and just have one, because a digital display can serve 8 local advertisers as opposed to just one face serving one. So you can do more with less. One other benefit, you know, that we want the community to understand that, you know, we've got digitals throughout the coast and most other cities, and there's a benefit obviously to the advertisers being able to, you know, utilize them more efficiently, change copy. We also can offer the space for emergency messaging, law enforcement. You know, we work with charitable organizations, and even the city itself can utilize that space for, you know, events and public announcements, notices, and those things that we offer free of charge. So again, we provided some sample language that would just mirror what MDOT allows and what we do in other communities that we just hope will be considered. I've got a letter summarizing that, just so I can be brief today, that language and some of the benefits of digital. Then if it's okay, I'll just leave these packets to look at. And thank you again for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I got yours, Kate. And Miss Anita Warner.
Anita Warner, WARNER, 417 3rd Street, and also as chair of the Live Oak Registry here in Hancock County. I wanted to say thank you again for having this. Totally agree with what Kyle has said, because I live in his ward and we don't want to have more dense things there. We've been fighting several proposed dense developments for the last, I think 8 years, going back one. Today I'd like to talk about 2 things in particular. I have sent my comments in to Orion, so they're out there, but I'd like to talk about just some things that we see every day. Environmental standards, which are in 7.3C, talk about fences 8 foot tall. 8 foot tall board fences are too big. You don't want an 8 foot tall concrete fence, board fence, even an iron fence. Build a 6 foot fence. The people that come in that ask for variances are usually complaining that they don't want their neighbors looking into their backyard. There's a real simple solution. Plant a green fence. If anybody would like to see a green fence, come to my block of 3rd Street. I have an Iliagnus fence down one side. My neighbor across the street has a bamboo fence. The other neighbor next to them has a ligustrum fence. They're green and you don't see through them. So I think if we let people be 8 foot cedar fences, it's like you're living in a drug neighborhood. We don't want that here in the Bay. Plant a green fence. And there are plenty of plants you can do that with. Bamboo, as I said, although you're going to have to trim it. Iliagnus, Loropetalum, ligustrum are just a few. The other thing I'd like to talk about, and it's what I always complain about, when developers come in, clear cut everything, build a house, and leave. In this proposed code, under Design Standards Section 5.3D2, we are telling them they have to plant a tree. I strongly suggest that we tell them plant 3 trees. Put one between the sidewalk and the street, one in the front yard, and one in the backyard. This book, Mississippi Trees, is put out by the Mississippi Forestry Commission in conjunction with Mississippi State. It is all our native trees. This is what we should be planting. And there's lots of them in here, and they aren't all giant big trees. They're not all live oaks, but there are really good suggestions. So I strongly recommend that we do that, because when you clear cut, there's no trees. When you don't have trees, you don't have shade. You don't have stormwater absorption. Trees act like sponges. Trees clear the air. They give wildlife habitat. We should be replacing what we are removing. And one other thing I would like to suggest is that you have a tree board. That's nowhere in this code. And why do we need a tree board?
because the only person who is enforcing our tree ordinance right now is our building inspector. And God bless Ricky, he does a great job, but he's not a tree person. You need to have, and you've got plenty of people in this room, you've got master gardeners, you've got the garden club, you have arborists who could serve on a tree board. And there are cities along the coast and across the Pearl River who have tree boards. I want to suggest that too, to help people when they want to do landscaping, work with you to make it a better place. Thanks for your help.
Thank you very much.
I do believe we talked about establishing that when we adopted the new tree ordinance, right? And one of our council meetings about possibly doing a board.
Yeah, I think it was mentioned. I can't reference it off the top. Mr. Stephen Barney?
Yeah.
Or Steve Barney.
Stephen, S-T-V-E-N, Barney, B-A-R-N-E-Y, 420 Webster Street, 101 Central. Good evening, Mayor, council members, and Consultant Bob. Thank you very much for having this workshop. I've got some general comments to make about process and also talk a little bit about my specific property. For the past 10 years, I've operated a working pottery studio and a regional arts facility here in Bay St. Louis. It's not a hobby business. It's a production studio. It's an educational facility. It's a regional cultural asset serving participants across the region. I'm here tonight in firm opposition to this whole zoning ordinance. First of all, the process. This ordinance has evolved without any clear version control, without any transparent change logs, without any clear explanation of who's making decisions, what authority. Revisions seem to be being made continuously. When property owners request corrections, they're routed to Orion, Jeremy. Where's Jeremy tonight? I don't know how he could not be here. This is not how you build public trust. As Councilman Lewis stated, the statement of work with Orion Planning and Development lists stakeholders including real estate professionals, developers, and contractors. This raises a serious question. Who is this ordinance designed to serve? Because what I see is a document that appears calibrated around development interests, not existing property owners, not small operators, and not the long-standing working businesses that have helped shape the city. Now, specifically regarding my property, the corner of Washington and Central. I'm currently zoned C2 commercial. The proposed future designation places my property into a neighborhood center framework. My operation is not neighborhood retail. Washington Central is not a pedestrian cafe style commerce area. I operate a fabrication and production environment with kilns, materials handling equipment, programming across the region, workshops, institutional partnerships. It's not a pedestrian friendly corridor. My operation depends on vehicle access, parking, and functional industrial flexibility. Reclassifying my property into a neighborhood retail model misrepresents what exists and risks rendering a productive, tax-paying, regionally impactful arts facility either non-conforming or constrained in its ability to grow. This ordinance imposes design, landscaping, and use assumptions that make sense for speculative mixed-use development, but not for working creative industrial operations. Planning should reflect reality. It should protect existing productive uses. It should not destabilize them. When you combine a process lacking transparency and documented version control, advisory influence weighted towards development interests, and a zoning framework that misclassifies existing operations, the conclusion is unavoidable. This ordinance as written does not simply need minor revision, needs to be withdrawn and fundamentally reworked with full transparency, clear governance and decision authority, and balanced stakeholder representation, and explicit protections for existing commercial and creative industrial uses. Throwing this out is not a radical idea. It's responsible governance. The foundation's flawed. I urge you not to move forward with adoption in its current form. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Tad Black.
Thank you, council. Mayor, you've heard me say this before.
Mr. Black, just so for the record, if you'd like it recorded. you
Tad
can-
Black, 211 7th Street, TADBLACK.
That's a hard name.
Isn't it? Yes, I want this recorded. You know, a comprehensive plan, really, we should have never had the third. You build on your other. You know, it's a 5-year review. You build on it. You see if your city's heading the way that you thought it would. And if it didn't, you revise it every 5 years. And we've had 3 comprehensive plans, and yes, I've been on every one of them. Once as a councilman. Second one was the 09, appointed by the council and the mayor. And this last one, which I can honestly say, is Bob still listening? We didn't have too much to say with any of this. I'll be honest with you. It was about 5 or 6 Zoom meetings, and that was it. So the advisory board had nothing to do with what y'all have in your hand right now. Anyway, you know, I've heard comments from our city attorney. I've heard comments from council people that our zoning is outdated. Well, guess what? I'm fixing to read off some cities that are compatible to Bay St. Louis. Waveland, Pass Christian, Long Beach, D'Iberville, Ocean Springs, Goshen, Moss Point, and I threw Harrison County in there. And I don't know why that we keep saying this is outdated, because these cities, those 7 cities, have updated their zoning ordinance within the last 5 years. They still have R1, R2, and R3. I don't know why we're getting this, it's outdated. You know, you worried about so many variances, don't give them. After Katrina, you know, there was a 30-foot variance for a front yard, a 25 for the back, and 10 on each side. Well, after Katrina, the advisory board for the second comprehensive plan, which I was on, they did some changes, right? Instead of having the 30-foot front, you got a 25-foot front. Instead of having 10 foot on each side, you got 8 foot on each side. Instead of having 25 in the back, you have 20 to make it easier for people to build back, right? What's happening is we have out-of-towners coming buying small lots, and they're giving variances. You want to build a big house? Buy a big lot, right? Okay, now what my neighborhood is zoned R1. 1967, it was called the Bay St. Louis Land Improvement Company, was annexation. And no, we did not get paved streets to the 80s. We didn't get sewer to 84. Okay? So, but anyway, those lots, most of them are 100 by 144. You got key lots because of streets. Like my grandma's lot was 86 feet across from me, and the other lot behind it was 106 feet because of the way the roads go at a diagonal, right? Dedicated roads. But our forefathers, when zoning was adopted in 1964, they had the thought that we don't want to keep building like downtown where you got houses right next to each other, right? They said, let's make big lots, and you know, those big lots are selling for $45,000, $50,000 now. When I bought my 2 lots, it cost me $6 each in 1980. So, but you've got Waveland, Pass Christian, Long Beach, D'Iberville, Ocean Springs, Goshen, and Moss Point. All are still using R1 and R2 for residential. And they just updated theirs, and Bob was part of this. Bob was part of Bay St. Louis, Diamond Head, Pass Christian, and Waveland. And I know a friend on the Alderman, I play golf with him in Pass Christian. He said, Tad, we didn't change that. We stayed at our R1, R2, and R3. He said, matter of fact, Harrison County still keeps it. Big county. So I don't know where we get off on that our zoning laws are outdated, because they are not. They're outdated because certain people want to build a lot of density on vacant property. That would make the zoning codes outdated. You tired of giving variances? Quit giving them. You build a house, you stay 8 foot from the property lines on the side, 20 from the back, and 25 from the front, you're good to go. You ain't got to talk to nobody. Get your building permit and build. But that's the problem we're seeing, and special exceptions, should be taken out of the zoning code, period. That means I can come in here and ask for anything I want. Now, some people have brought up about some gentlemen's clubs that can be in mixed-use property. The old ordinance, you can only do it, well, there's a state law that covers that, 1,200 feet from churches, public property. So our downtown area wouldn't allow a gentleman's club, but the highway would. So I don't know why you're putting gentlemen's clubs in mixed use, because that would be like taking the one-stop grocery store by my house on Turner in Old Spanish Trail. Instead of being a little grocery store, we make it a strip club. Because that's deemed mixed
Mr.
use.
Black, unfortunately, your 5 minutes is up. I do thank
Oh,
you for your,
shucks, man, come on.
I do thank you for your comments. Bob Johnson?
Mr. Bradford,
Yes.
with all due respect to Mr. Black, the information he's provided is inaccurate. We did not know, he said we were involved in several of those cities with regard to zoning, which is factually untrue. And I want that in the record.
Thank you, Mr. Bob.
Can I respond to that?
Unfortunately, Mr. Black, if I give you, Mr. Black, if I give you more time, I have to give other people more time. So it's not that I don't want to hear from you, it's that I have to treat everyone the same. I will. We have Mr. Bob Johnson.
Signed the wrong sheet.
Mr. Frania Elthridge.
I'm Franya Etheridge, Franya Etheridge, 122 Melody Lane. And I'd really like to thank the council for all your comments. It thrills me to hear you say the things that you said. And I agree with almost everything everybody else has said. My comments are kind of limited. I think that well-planned growth is essential to the city of Bay St. Louis as we move forward. The city has adopted a comprehensive plan and we should follow the framework that was agreed upon. That having been said, I would like to express my strong opposition to the following. I object to the reduction in front footage of suburban neighborhood low, which used to be R1, lot width, as it is counter to the comprehensive plan, which does not recommend reducing lot widths and creating greater density. You're reducing the R1 from 100 foot to 90 feet. There's no reason for that. In my neighborhood in Cedar Point, we all have big lots. There's no justification for it. There's no rationale. I also object to the expansion of the resort destination district into the current R1 designated areas. This is Casino Magic or Hollywood Casino. The change doesn't comply with the comprehensive plan, which recommends leaving new natural buffers between the R1 and resort destination district areas. It changes the zoning behind the properties on Felicity Street, the end of Commercial Boulevard, the end of Old Bay Lane, the back of the lots on Jackson Boulevard and Pine Drive, a swath of land fronting on the west side of Dunbar Avenue between the Oaks and Thomas Street, the back of the lots along Thomas Street west of Dunbar, along the south side of the second box of Julia to Engman, and along Engman to just past Harrison Court. The resort destination district will now also abut the school property and the sports complex with no buffer. I mean, you know what's allowed in a resort destination. You can have bars, lounges, almost anything. The uses allowed in this district do not belong directly adjacent to residences and schools. When the original casino district was established, its scope was limited to reduce the impact on the surrounding residential districts. The expansion of the resort destination district removes that protection and could possibly leave the door open for an additional casino along Dunbar Avenue. That land goes from Dunbar all the way back to Engman. I also object to the addition of a riverfront district along the far end of North Beach Boulevard. That's a new thing. It's not indicated in the comprehensive plan, and it changes the zoning along parts of Engman, Blakemore, the back of the lots on the west side of Cedar Ridge, and the back of the lots along North Beach west of Cedar Ridge. According to the Hancock County Geoportal, the land is currently listed as being owned by Gulfport LLC, which on the Mississippi Secretary of State's website, its officer member is listed as VICI Properties 1 LLC. It appears to be linked to the Grand Casino, Biloxi, Horseshoe Tunica, and the new Tunica Roadhouse. There's no justification for this change in the zoning, and it's basically a backdoor expansion of the resort destination district into Cedar Point. I'd ask that this be included in the minutes, and I hope you guys consider this.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for your comments.
Thank you.
Faye, can you help me out? Faye, what's the last name? Faye, is it Kathy? No, the one before that.
Oh, Faye. This one? F-A-H-U-Y.
Faye? Faye? God, can you help me?
F-A-H-E-Y.
Faye, with the last.
House.
Faye House.
Faye House.
Faye House?
I think she
Faye
left.
House?
She left.
Ted's gonna run it with 10 minutes, 20 minutes, everybody keeps giving us.
Wrong paper. Brian Milner?
Brian Milner, B-R-I-A-N-M-I-L-N-E-R. I reside at 733 Dunbar Avenue. Like everybody else, thank you very much for holding this. This is only the second time I've been in this chamber. The first was Friday, so this is all kind of new to me, so I'm going to read all my comments. There are many items that I would like to discuss concerning the proposed ordinance, but with the time constraints tonight, I'll be addressing the requirements of a variance being considered in the proposed ordinance. My other comments will come in writing, and it is my understanding that they will be forwarded in their entirety to the consultant for review, response, and action. Under the current ordinance, there are 11 conditions, all of which must be met before hardship variance is approved by the P&Z and sent to the City Council for approval. The proposed ordinance has consolidated these current 11 conditions into 8 conditions, but has removed the necessity of all the conditions to be met. In fact, the proposed ordinance says that the P&Z shall consider the following review criteria and list their 8 conditions. Considering the conditions and requiring all the conditions to be met are not the same thing. By doing this, I believe we are opening the door to becoming a present-day Pottersville. Mr. Lewis and Ms. Monty have already brought this up, but I've been told by a few people that the proposed ordinance has incorporated all the repetitive variances that have been granted over the last few years. So instead of being a hardship variance, they will have a permitted by right status. As one of the comments made online earlier, I think Mr. Ravelay, this is like raising the speed limit to match the driver's speed instead of enforcing the current speed limit. Look, I've been blessed to work on the Mississippi Gulf Coast as a financial advisor for the last 25 years. I've dealt with my clients' 401ks and IRAs, and these are retirement plans that are set up by the federal government to allow its citizens to save for their retirement. They have strict rules for these plans, including conditions that must be met before someone can take money out prematurely. Those are called hardship distributions, just like our variances are called hardships. I've been asked in the past to process a hardship withdrawal to pay for taxes that were unexpected. And I had explained to them that this is not a hardship condition defined by the federal government. In fact, they call it poor planning. I call using repetitive variances to shape our ordinance poor planning. Instead of relaxing the rule for variance to the point of ridiculousness, we need to enforce the current rules. We need to review the variances that have been approved lately and remind the real estate agents, designers, architects, contractors that these are hardship variances and not a blanket approval process. Apparently, when the current ordinance was passed, we had a city government more concerned with protecting its citizens Another issue with the proposed ordinance is the public hearing requirements for hardship variances and special exemption. While it keeps the timeline and most of the notices of the hearings the same, as Mrs. Monty pointed out, it removes the requirement for a notice to be mailed to the owners of all properties within a radius of 300 feet of the boundaries of the property in question. These are the most important people to be notified. As I mentioned, I was blessed to have been able to work with all my clients along the Gulf Coast. And whenever I mentioned I was from Bay St. Louis, the response was always positive. I love that town. We love going there. It's so quaint and friendly. However, over the last 4 or 5 years, the responses have changed. They are now along the lines of, we don't go there anymore. It's too crowded. Oh, you mean Bar St. Louis? Or even, oh yeah, Bay St. Louis, a place falling apart. And more recently, quaint, it ain't. Look, there are a lot of problems with the proposed ordinance, and I find it difficult to believe that this was presented to the public in its current state. I believe we have spent over $200,000 for the BSL 2045 plan and are now spending more than $100,000 to rewrite the ordinance. It seems to me that much more input is needed to even come close to having this become a reality. And I do support, the idea of having another workshop after the revisions have been made into this proposed ordinance. Thank you again.
Thank you. Katie Aim.
Hi, my name is Katie Aim. I reside at 448 Ullman Avenue. I also own property at 451 Ullman Avenue.
Ms. Katie, I know it sounds silly. Could you spell your name for the
Katyaime?
Thank you.
A lot of vowels. So, 448 Ullman Avenue, 451 Ullman Avenue, 1170 Highway 90, and 502 Carroll Avenue. So that's 4 different zones that my properties are being affected in. One of the things that I've been proudest, just so y'all know, is to be able to clean up a piece of Highway 90. So I'm 1170 Highway 90, the old golf cart place. So please take note of that. But I just wanted to talk with you guys while this is all in play. This chart of uses limits a lot of the properties. So that's one of the things that a lot of people haven't talked about. They talk a lot about lot lines and things like that. For me, it's the chart of uses. I specifically chose the properties that I chose to buy because they were in an X flood zone and because of the chart of uses on the properties. So I really hope that y'all take a very close look at that. I mean, something as simple as, I just talked with the mayor, marine sales storage right there. So y'all have breaths and they do marine sales, but they don't do marine storage. So those are some really loaded, we went from 12 pages, I think it was, to 6 pages, like basically half to describe all the uses of all these properties, okay? One of the things as a real estate professional, we've been kind of brought up here a little bit tonight, we're not in it to limit all the properties and make a lot of money, but real estate professionals versus home occupation. Currently, I'm zone C2 in my residence. I chose to not work out of my home. I chose to purchase a building on Highway 90 and improve that property. If y'all change my zoning from C2 down to R1, you're cutting out many, many, many uses that I believe before me that wasn't in the planning that happened. It wasn't in the planning that happened before because there's sidewalks, there's lights, you got more pickleball courts coming. We actually have on that street in the proposed new zoning, 8 different types of zoning and 0.8, less than a mile stretch. But we are gonna be downplayed in our usage of our property as it sits right now. So the historic school is for sale. It's going to be something. The end of Ullman Avenue is for sale. It's going to be something. On Webster Street, currently, you have 20 condos. Many of y'all are familiar with this, that are possibly going to be coming by right, minus the natural drainage ditch or the trees holding up that development. When that happens, that ditch drains to my property that we're going to take from C2 and make it R1. Like, there's no fairness in this for me. Then we're gonna go, that drain actually comes from the pickleball courts down, so it's gonna hit the other property that I have at 451 Ullman. That's gonna stay under the same zoning, but my personal home is not gonna stay under that same zoning. So, but I still can get, why can't I be Gulf Coast Homes or some of these other businesses and things that are on the street that are happening? I agree with Kyle about the complete autonomy from a planning and zoning person. That's an amazing point. Very good. And I think that that's a complaint that we've heard a lot in the community. I hadn't heard that before, but I'd like to delve a little bit more into that. But I think that Ullman Avenue used to be commercial. It was chiropractors, a dog place, a tea room, a florist, a doctor, a snowball stand, gas stations. It's been all that in the years that I didn't live here. So now we're going to take that street that we've developed, that we've put sidewalks, that we've put lights and everything into, and I'm blessed to have amazing neighbors. Some of you are here tonight, some aren't. But we're going to take the duplexes and make them single-family homes. But we have 8 more condos that are already approved to come in the school district. McPhail is going to put in 8 more condos. So there's all this development that's happening, and our use is getting lessened. So I really hope that y'all keep that zoned as C2. There's others that I could go on. Oh, accessory dwelling units, taking away the R2. We have a lot of aging population that is moving here and moving in with their families and stuff as well. They're being priced out of their homes in other areas, so they can't afford the rents and things that happen. That's where some of that art, keeping things as duplexes and stuff like that, that's really gonna make a big difference for a lot of people who move here as well. So that's about all I have to say in the short amount of time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Angela Benvenuti?
Just here as a learning experience.
Okay. Is that the same thing for you, Mr. Ben?
I'll just
come up.
Jot down some notes. My name is Ben Benvenuti, Benvenutti, 1114 Dunbar Avenue. Just like to thank the board for the chance to meet and say I'm impressed with the board members and a lot of the all of the commenters today. I was jotting down just to, I know it's getting late, just want to say I'm opposed to the ordinance which allows a higher density. It seems to lessen the rigor of the variance process and really doesn't address the short-term rental. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Cliff Rabelais.
Good evening. Cliff Rabelais, C-L-I-F-F, last name R-A-B-A as in Bravo Alpha, R-A-B-A-L-A-I-S. I'm at 702 3rd Street. Thank you, gentlemen. Not the first time I talked to you guys, is it? Okay, the whole reason, and most of this you guys probably heard before, some of y'all heard from me this afternoon, reasoning for getting a new ordinance is to end up at something better than we currently have. This draft has moved us in the opposite direction. Meeting back in January, I stated public input had not been taken. Here we are in March, and the bulk of the public comments shown on the website. Larry, I hope you passed. There are 51 comments posted on the website. Over 30 of them are mine. 7 of them are Kyle's. 6 of them are Phil Sarrett. These public comments are not being put out where people can see them. And just like some of the comments I heard this evening, what other people say triggers me to go and look. So let's please get that fixed. I don't think it's you guys, but I know there's some people who've gotten up here and spoke, 3 of them in particular that I talked to that have sent in comments via email. Their comments are not being made available to the general public. I didn't know about this estate lots thing until I talked to somebody today, but in the comprehensive plan where it's discussed that the area that where I live, they have an area called estate lots. The reality is where I live, near Romanita Street, Breeden Place and Bay Oaks, those streets are the subdivisions. most of us own between 1 and 20 acres. That's the size of the lots out there. And this whole thing, Mr. Bob talked about the character of the area. Well, I got the small lot, I only got 2 acres. I'm not gonna reiterate a whole lot of the specifics. This draft ordinance, as we've said before, and it becomes very obvious, we were at the 60-yard line, we want to get to the 90-yard line, we're back at the 30-yard line now. We went backwards. And I've said it before, and it's always easier for a contractor to demo what's there and start fresh, because then he's in control. I would ask specifically who within the city administration, and if there's anybody willing to stand up and say, yeah, I did it, gave this Orion input to Orion, because I haven't heard anybody's name yet. I've heard the reasoning for the smaller lots and reduced setbacks were because such things were being asked as a variance as they were always being. As I told you on Friday night, the standard is not how many variances we give, it's the standard, and we vary from the standard. As someone else, Mr. Milner, just said, you don't change the speed limit because everybody's speeding. The fact that we have a requirement that you have to meet to get a variance is good. You got reasons to have variance. We were cut up, Hancock County and Bay St. Louis is cut up in little bitty pieces. You can't have a fixed standard. We're not a clean slate starting fresh. You're gonna have variances. You gotta have a reason to approve it. You approve it if it's supposed to be, you deny it if you're not. It's like your grandson comes and asks for a piece of candy. If you give him a piece of candy, next time he sees you, you ask for a piece of candy. You give him a piece of candy. Every time you approve it, you reinforce that. Just ask for it, they'll give it to you. We need to stick to the ordinance. In Mr. Barker's presentation, he said they took community input from the city administration. Who? Names. Existing code was reviewed. Who? It was presented to the Planning Commission and Council. You guys know darn well in January, I irritated all of you because y'all got to see it the same time as the public got to see it, and I don't think Planning and Zoning had seen it yet. So I don't know who in Planning and Zoning Commission reviewed it that gave input, because I don't think they did. Somebody's feeding me a line of bull. Current code is scattered. That's what Mr. Bob said. Yeah, the current code is scattered. This one isn't any better. I had a gentleman that lives across the street from me say this code is a developer's dream. And I had someone talk to me tonight saying they're trying to sell their house and they can't sell it because the lot is too small. People come here because they don't want to be in Kenner and Metairie with small lots on top of each other. Thank you, gentlemen.
I think it was clear.
Now, I do have some stuff I'd like to give to whoever I need to give it to, some specific things to.
If you have enough copies for everyone, we'll all take one, but if you only got one,
No,
give
you
it to
guys
Caitlin.
have seen it. Oh, you should have.
Yeah. I don't know, this is the first time I've seen it. Yeah. We got it documented.
Where we splitting from R2 to R1 in the middle of the lot for no obvious reason whatsoever.
All right, we have,
Thank you, sir.
thank you,
Were you saying,
Josh McGee.
were you saying something?
Joshua McGee, M-A-G-E. I fail to see how this meets comprehensive plan. You know, I first read this about a month ago. I've contacted many of y'all several times, and I have yet to get responded back. And I don't know how it meets the comprehensive plan. Heard again and again it meets it, but when I read the comprehensive plan, it doesn't meet it. How does this all fit together? How does it fit together with our existing ordinances? We have tons of different ordinances. This overlaps many of them. I hear claims that this has a better environment, less density, and so forth, but when I actually look through, it's not the case. I mean, we had a chapter 42. We have a whole new sign thing that's definitely been reproduced. So what happened to chapter 22 environmental? Article 1, stormwater prevention management, tree preservation, erosion and sediment control, flood damage and prevention. Many of these things, when I first read this, a month ago, after I contacted many of y'all up here, which I have yet to receive any feedback, any discussion on, is that, on another note, after reading the newly proposed zoning ordinance, it appears that it really guts the environmental section and guts out our stormwater management, erosion, sediment control, and flood damage plan. The tree preservation and side ordinance were, however, strengthened. Large lot sizes and setbacks were reduced to minimize variance requests, while top drivers, such as the environment, were completely, not only ignored, but highly diverged from the objective. The new proposal seems to very geared towards every identified community stakeholder interest to set the citizens' interest. Now, I can go back to a conversation that Bob had today, and he said there was two main goals. Two main goals: to move undeveloped land and to reduce variance. That were the two main goals. That's what he said just today. Now, I can go over the purpose and intent of this new ordinance. There's A through M, 13 different things. And I can go step in step. As I evaluated, out of those 13 things, 3 of them they accomplished. And that's one, that they're meeting the comprehensive objective plan. I don't know, but since no one's talked to me about it, I'm going to give that as a par. Now, 5 of them, I think they fail. You know, reduces the vulnerability development to residents from storm and flooding and other natural hazards? No, absolutely not. Fully guts the current zoning. Ensures adequate open spaces between air and fire safety? No, it reduces again. And we can step down these. So again, out of the 13, 3 plus, 5 negative, and 3 questionable. Now, we've been here a long night, and I welcome any of y'all to come talk to me about this issue. And we can walk down, but this is a lot longer than a 5-minute section. And, you know, how much time are we supposed to devolve going through this and combing over all these dots and dots when it was such radically changed? This needs to be thrown out, not amended upon, and really, really taking a second look. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh. That is everybody who signed up. I want to. Yeah, go on. We got room for one more. Yeah. No worries.
Keith Freeland, BRELAND, 11126 Canaan Lane, 216 Cary Court. Yeah, about the new zoning, does it have anything to do with elevation on the river, on the mouth of the river? No elevation changes, it's all gonna stay the same?
I believe that has to do with.
That's FEMA.
FEMA, yeah.
That's, I mean, yeah, because what I was getting at, you know, when you have, after Katrina, a group from Florida that actually came in and did a zoning, you know, I ended up in velocity zone, and my brother behind me ended up in R1. So I drove over to the Mississippi Coast Coliseum and said, hey, what's the difference between velocity and R1? He said, oh, you're gonna have 7-foot high water, you're gonna have 3-foot waves on top of that, and blah, blah, blah. I said, really? He said, yeah. I said, well, I can take one step back and forth. And he looked at me. Well, it was a group out of Florida, you know, I'm like, it kind of, you know, I know it's the wrong thing, you know, because it's zoning, but I guess what I'm trying to say, that should try to find people locally or from the coast or something to make different zones, because I just got back from Navarre, Florida for 3 days, and they building their houses right on the concrete slab, right on the canals. I'm like, well, that's the people that told us we had to be 24 feet in the air, but all of them are building on the slabs. So that's about the only comment I had.
Thank you very much, Mr. Breland. All right. Yeah, come on, Mr. Buffetti.
Mark Benfatti, Benfatti, 128 Washington Street. I know it says construction, so don't get upset. Don't get upset. I know what y'all think. I turned my back on y'all and just like that. So, really, thank everybody. I mean, it's 2 hours, and I'm sure we missed a couple of episodes or something, but this is, you know, a good bunch of people here, and everybody is worried about Bay St. Louis. I'm sorry. I gotta talk to them. It's more fun. But anyway, I've been here 20-something years. I'm from St. Bernard Parish. I love it here. It's my home. I just built on Washington Street. We do build homes on these lots. Some of them are too small, and we try to make it work. We are now one of the few guys in town that are building fortified homes, which is a higher level of standard building practices, and the customers are getting 55% off their homeowner's insurance if they fortify their home. And we build all fortified homes. So, you know, we all got the same agenda, right? I gotta survive, you guys gotta survive. We don't wanna be like you see in national politics, it's either one way or the other. You know, somewhere we gotta make it work to where we could build some nice houses, but not disrupt our neighborhood. I had a restaurant in Mandeville years ago before I moved over here, and it had a corner bar. And there was a guy, young kid, 30-something years old, and he had his wife or girlfriend with him, and she was really cute, right? So the older fella on the corner, somebody like Mr. Cliff or something, you know, he's flirting with the girl. If you don't want somebody to look at your beautiful wife, get you another wife. But the reason y'all here is because Bay St. Louis is awesome and everybody wants to come. And it's a problem y'all got to deal with, but I don't want to argue with Mr. Bryan, but people are calling me all the time. They want to come. I ain't heard.
Mr. Pavetti, we get you this.
Yeah, I ain't heard no, I'm not saying no negatives, but I'm telling you, my business is good. People love it. Y'all have developed a community that people want to be a part of. How y'all control it, I'm not smart enough to figure that out. I'm just building houses. But y'all have something special here, and how y'all work it out. You know, this is the first time I came to the one for 2045, but you know, we got to figure it out because we all live here. But this is a great place to be, and that's why y'all got the problems y'all got. Everybody wants to come. So, you know, I don't have a lot of wisdom on how to fix all these little things that these poor people got a task with, but it's somewhere special, and we got to keep it special, and I think that's what everybody really wants to do. So good luck to you guys. Y'all got your hands full.
Thank you, Mr. Pavetti.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I just want to take this time to thank everyone for being here, and hopefully we get this ship going in the right direction. Everyone who got up here, I know it takes a lot to come to the podium and say what you got to say, so I appreciate that. And with that being said, if the council doesn't have any other remarks to make.
They can go put one online, but also tell their neighbor to do this, like share it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, so that's what earlier in the meeting kind of referenced. We can't have any action. We can't set any dates at this workshop. So at our next meeting, you know, I challenge the council to come and bring some dates. After the draft, absolutely. Yes, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we have to have that. More so, I think as a council, we need to identify when do we want to cut off public comment.
Well, let's see when
Yeah.
that draft comes out.
See when-
And I mean, is there still gonna be comments needed for the draft?
No, I meant before the second draft.
I don't want
So right now, we're in the first. Yeah, right.
Well, we'll never be able to get the draft if you.
We'll never be able to get a second draft unless we close off comments. But to miss for the close off comments for the first draft. I'm sorry about that. And also, I heard Mr. Cliff made a good point, and I noticed this at our town hall, and even here tonight when we're all in the same room and we're talking about this, we're all picking up from something else. So I'm gonna see if we can get a partially compiled list of all the public comments to date, and see if we can get that put out there. That way we can read what some of our neighbors are saying about this. So.
I don't know if Bob's telling it. Do we have an ETA of when we'll get that, when all of its comments will be processed and we'll get that back?
So I don't know if Bobby's still on. I know he's been waiting on us to give him a date to close it off and compile it, but he can get us a partial.
I'm here.
Can you get us a partial of the public comments we've received so far?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Not just the online ones, all of
Yeah,
them.
and all, not just,
All of
so,
them.
so right now, the
Tonight
only ones
also.
visible
Everything
to
tonight
other
before.
residents are on the Dropbox, so.
And the
ones-
emails.
Yeah,
The-
Jeremy will have a record of all the ones that are not on the Dropbox.
Yeah, so that's what if we can, yeah, so we'll get with you, Jeremy, and we'll get a list compiled to release.
And where do we read those?
So on our city website, if you go to, the city website on the top, there's a banner, and just click on that, and we'll post all our updates on there. And there's, while everyone's in this room, we have something new as a council, we have a new link, constant communication, constant contact, so urge everyone to sign up for that. It releases all our meeting dates and agendas prior to the meeting, so thank you, Caitlin, for
There's a
coming up with
link,
that.
and you just put in your email address, and it will email you every month.
Can we add a link to the council page? Is it on the council page to where they can sign up for that?
It's
Like
not
on the
on there
city
now.
website? Can
Not
we add
yet.
it there? That way we can reference them to sign up. Oh yeah, I remember you told me that. Perfect. All right. Yeah, so good. I'll point out, so right now, the ways for public comment, you can comment on the Dropbox. Whenever we first released it, they ran into some issues with having to have an account. You'd have to sign up using your email. So the second way, you could email your comments directly to Jeremy Burke, and he would have them forwarded to Orion. And with that being said, we implemented a third way to comment, and that is directly on the website that I mentioned, the webpage that I mentioned on the city website. You can fill that out and submit your comments on there. So we have three ways, and then the ultimate goal of tonight was to have a verbal way for people to comment as well. So we need to get, to respond to say that they received them? Yeah. Did it go through?
Did it go
Yeah.
through?
Yeah, we need to get, I'll get with Jeremy to respond to all the ones that he's responded, just to let you know that they've been confirmed. And see that it's been there, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it gets everyone thinking about it. I agree with that. All right, with that being said, any other council business? Any other council discussion? Oh, well, I'll call for a motion to adjourn the workshop of March 4th, 2026.
Motion?
Motion by Councilman Smith, do I have a second?
Davis, second.
Any discussion? Vote the motion.
Aye.
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 Aye.